If your resume has a career gap, the biggest mistake is not the gap itself. The biggest mistake is letting the gap become the main story. A recruiter does not open your resume thinking, "Tell me your whole life." They are usually thinking, "Can this person do the job soon, with low risk, and explain their timeline clearly?" So if you are returning to work after time away, your goal is not to apologize harder. Your goal is to answer the risk question faster. That answer is current proof. Current proof means recent evidence that you are still employable, still learning, still able to deliver, and still connected to the kind of work you want now. It can be a project, a certification, a short course, volunteer work, freelance work, a portfolio sample, a case study, a refreshed resume, or even a well-explained practice project that mirrors the job. The gap is context. The proof is the story. Let's make this practical. Imagine two candidates both took 3 years away from full-time work. One says, "I have been out of the workforce for family reasons, but I am hardworking and ready to return." That is honest, but it leaves the employer with questions. What skills are current? What tools have they used recently? What kind of role are they ready for? How long will the ramp-up be? Now compare that with this. "I took a planned career break for family care. I am now returning to full-time operations roles. Over the last 2 months, I refreshed my Excel and reporting skills, completed a sample inventory dashboard, and helped a local nonprofit clean up donor records and weekly tracking. I am looking for a role where I can use process improvement, reporting, and coordination skills right away." That second answer does not hide the gap. It explains it briefly, then moves the conversation to evidence. This is the central shift. You do not need a dramatic comeback story. You need a clean timeline and recent proof. A career gap can happen for many reasons: caregiving, health, layoff, study, relocation, parenting, immigration, military family moves, burnout recovery, personal responsibilities, a business attempt, a long job search. None of those automatically make you unqualified, but hiring is an evidence game. If your last formal job ended a while ago, the employer may wonder whether your skills are rusty, whether your expectations are realistic, whether you can work in a current team environment, and whether you understand today's tools and pace. You answer those concerns with what I call the 3-part reentry message. First, name the gap briefly. Second, state the direction you are returning to. Third, give current proof. Here is the formula in plain language. "I stepped away from full-time work for a specific reason. I am now returning to this type of role. Recently, I have done these concrete things that show I am ready." That is enough for most situations. Notice what is not in that formula. There is no long apology. There is no oversharing. There is no begging someone to take a chance. There is no attempt to pretend time did not pass. The tone is calm and factual. For example, weak wording sounds like this: "I know I have been out for a while, so I understand if that is a concern. I just need someone to give me an opportunity." That may be true, but it puts all the focus on doubt. Stronger wording sounds like this: "After a caregiving break, I am returning to customer success roles. I have refreshed my CRM skills, completed 3 mock account review write-ups, and built a 30, 60, and 90-day customer onboarding plan based on common renewal risks." That sentence gives the employer something to evaluate. This is also why generic applications often fail after a gap. If your resume only lists older jobs, the reader has to make a leap from who you were then to what you can do now. Many recruiters will not make that leap for you. You have to build the bridge. Before we go deeper, if this kind of practical job search breakdown is useful, consider subscribing. The goal here is not to give you vague confidence tips. It is to help you make your resume, interviews, and LinkedIn profile easier for employers to understand. Now let's talk about the resume. A return-to-work resume should not look like a confession document. It should look like a current candidate document. Start with a headline that points to the role you want, not "experienced professional seeking opportunity after career break." Use something like project coordinator with operations, scheduling, and vendor communication experience. Or administrative assistant returning to full-time work with recent training in Excel, calendar management, and document control. Or marketing specialist focused on email campaigns, content calendars, and performance reporting. The headline tells the reader what box to put you in. Next, use a short summary that connects past experience with current proof. A weak summary says, dedicated professional with a gap in employment looking to re-enter the workforce. A stronger summary says, operations coordinator with 5 years of experience supporting scheduling, vendor follow-up, and weekly reporting. Returning to full-time work after a family care break with recent Excel refresh training and a completed sample dashboard for tracking open requests, turnaround time, and overdue items. That summary does 3 things. It names the job family, it gives prior experience, it adds recent proof. Then place current proof near the top of the resume, especially if your most recent formal role is old. You might create a section called Recent Projects and Training, or Recent Reentry Work, or Selected Projects. Keep the title simple. Under that section, write entries that look like work, not vague learning. For example, do not just write completed online course in data analysis. Write built a sample sales dashboard using spreadsheet data to track monthly revenue, customer segments, and top product categories. Cleaned duplicate records, created pivot tables, and summarized 3 findings in a 1-page report. That is much stronger because it shows output. If you completed a certification, do not let the certification sit alone. Add what you can now do because of it. Weak version, completed project management certificate. Stronger version, completed project management certificate and created a sample project plan with milestones, dependencies, owner assignments, and weekly status updates for a website migration scenario. The employer does not just want to know that you watched lessons. They want to know what you can produce. If you volunteered, describe it with professional language. Weak version, helped at school events. Stronger version, coordinated volunteer schedules for 3 school events, communicated weekly updates to parents, tracked supply needs, and resolved same-day coverage gaps. That sounds like coordination, communication, and operations, because it is. If you freelanced informally, name the service and the result. Weak version, did some work for friends. Stronger version, provided resume editing and LinkedIn profile updates for 3 job seekers, improving role targeting, achievement wording, and keyword alignment. You are not inflating, you are translating. Now, should you include the career gap directly on the resume? Usually, if the gap is recent and noticeable, a brief line is better than leaving the reader guessing. You can include it as a simple, dated entry, especially if it helps the timeline make sense. For example, career break, family care, 2022 to 2025. Then 1 line underneath. Return to full-time job search after completing caregiving responsibilities and refreshing skills in reporting, CRM documentation, and customer communication. If the reason is private, keep it private. You can say career break, personal leave, or planned career break, or career break, relocation, and family transition. You do not need to share medical details, family details, or anything that makes you uncomfortable. The purpose is not to expose your life. The purpose is to remove confusion. On LinkedIn, use the same principle. Your headline should lead with your target role, not your gap. Your About section can include 1 clean re-entry sentence. For example, I am returning to full-time administrative and operations roles after a family care break. Recent focus includes Excel reporting, calendar coordination, inbox management, and process documentation. Then add a featured item if you can, a portfolio PDF, a dashboard screenshot with private data removed, a short case study, a writing sample, a project plan, a before and after process document. Again, current proof. Now let's move to interviews, because this is where many returning professionals over-explain. When an interviewer says, "Can you walk me through the gap on your resume?" they are not always accusing you. Often, they are checking whether there is a simple explanation. Your answer should be short enough that the conversation can move forward. Use this structure. During that period, I stepped away from full-time work for family care. That responsibility is now complete, and I am ready to return to full-time work. To prepare, I refreshed my skills in Excel and reporting, completed a sample operations dashboard, and have been targeting coordinator roles where those skills match the daily work. Then stop. Do not keep talking because silence feels uncomfortable. Let the interviewer ask the next question. Here is another example for a career changer. I took a career break after relocation and used the transition to move from retail management into HR coordination. I completed training in employee records, interview scheduling, and onboarding workflows. I also built sample onboarding checklists and email templates so I can speak clearly about the administrative side of the role. That answer does not claim experience you do not have. It shows preparation. For a health-related break, you might say, "I stepped away from work for a health matter that has been resolved enough for me to return. I am now focused on full-time analyst roles. Over the past month, I rebuilt my portfolio with 2 spreadsheet projects and practiced explaining the business recommendations behind the numbers." That is clear, private, and forward-moving. A common misunderstanding is that confidence means pretending the gap does not matter. That is not confidence. That is avoidance. Another misunderstanding is that honesty means telling the full emotional story. You can be honest without giving the employer every detail. The best reentry answer is brief, true, and useful for the job decision. Now, let's build the 30-day reentry proof plan. For the next 30 days, your goal is not to fix your whole career. Your goal is to create enough evidence that your resume and interviews feel current. In week 1, choose 1 target role, not 5, 1. Pick a job title that appears repeatedly in postings and fits your background or transition path. Save 5 job descriptions. Highlight the tasks that appear again and again. Those repeated tasks are your proof targets. If project coordinator postings keep asking for scheduling, status updates, stakeholder communication, and spreadsheet tracking, do not spend the month learning random tools. Build proof around those tasks. In week 2, create 1 small project that mirrors the job. If you want customer support, write 3 sample responses to difficult customer situations, and create a simple escalation guide. If you want marketing, build a 2-week content calendar, write 3 sample posts, and create a simple performance report template. If you want data work, clean a public sample dataset, create a dashboard, and write 5 plain English insights. If you want administration, create an inbox triage system, a meeting agenda template, and a travel planning checklist. Small and finished beats large and unfinished. In week 3, update your resume and LinkedIn profile around the proof. Add a recent project section. Rewrite your summary. Replace apology language with readiness language. Make sure the first half of your resume answers what role are you targeting, what experience do you bring, and what recent proof shows you are ready. In week 4, practice your reentry explanation out loud and send targeted outreach. Write a recruiter message like this. "Hi, I'm returning to full-time operations coordinator roles after a family care break. My background includes scheduling, vendor follow-up, and reporting, and I recently completed a sample dashboard and process tracker to refresh those skills. I would be glad to be considered for coordinator roles where organization and follow-through are priorities." That message is not dramatic. It is usable. Also, prepare 1 interview answer for the gap, 1 answer for why this role, and 1 example of recent proof. Practice until each answer is under 1 minute. Here is the reentry mindset in 1 sentence. Do not lead with absence. lead with readiness. Your gap may explain where you have been, but your proof explains why an employer should keep reading, keep listening, and keep considering you. If you are returning to work after a career gap, your next step is simple. Pick one target role, create one piece of current proof, and rewrite the top of your resume so the proof is visible before the doubt takes over. If you have a specific career gap situation and you are not sure how to explain it, leave a comment with the role you want and the kind of gap you are navigating. And if you want a future video on returnships, career change resumes, or interview answers after a long break, suggest that too.